Well, shooters and reloaders out there, it's Fortune Cookie 45 LC coming to you from the hot lead zone. And today, let's go ahead and do some work with a 445 Super Magnum, but we're going to go ahead and load it with Hodgdon 777 powder using Remington 9.5 large rifle primers and those fine Lee hard cast 300 grain 44 caliber bullets, as you see in the front there. Now we're going to use Starline once fired brass, and this brass was fired with 5744 powder and brought home from the range, wiped off, and we're not going to go ahead and do any wet tumbling of them. Just go ahead and wipe them off, and you'll see that when we're using brand new brass, the first time you fire it and reload it again, it still looks pretty good. You can get away without doing wet tumbling for the first time around. So you can see this brass is pretty clean after it's been wiped off, and the inside of the case isn't bad. See if you can see in there, try and shine some light in there with the flashlight. Clean enough that we can go ahead and load the 777 powder without any problem. Here's a close-up of the brass and also the Lee 300 grain 44 caliber bullets. These are the wide flat noses and they have the 2 crimping grooves. We're going to use the second crimping groove with the black powder substitute Hodgdon 777 to give us a little more case capacity so we can get a little more 777 in there. Now the gun we're going to be shooting these in, of course, is our Thompson Center Encore. Very strong platform. So we don't have to be concerned with going ahead and shooting powerful 777 loads in that gun. Okay, so we have our fine Lee custom cast press. Put a primer in the primer arm, run the case all the way into the sizing die, deprime and resize the whole case full length, and then seat the primer. As easy as that, and you see the primer is seated perfectly without any kind of damage to the primer at all. And that case looks pretty nice, almost new. And once again, the inside is pretty clean. We'll do another one of those to show you, so here we go. Size, primer, reprime. Now here's the cool thing about the Lee system of toggle priming, and that is we can take the shell holder out, and then since we're done with the priming, we take the primer arm out, put the shell holder back in, and now we don't have the distraction of the toggle flipping back and forth all the time. And now we've got the Lee neck expander mouth flaring die installed, and it happens to be also the powder through die. So we'll go ahead and run that in there, and let's go ahead and make sure we don't overdo it. So the idea is to expand the case neck to hold the bullet, and then flare the case mouth so we can start the bullet easily. Now you see the bullet doesn't go in, even though it's neck expanding, but the mouth isn't flaring yet. So we'll go ahead and adjust the die until we get the right mouth flare. Okay, that didn't take long, so now you see we've got the right mouth flare to start the bullet. And that's all we need. So this die is adjusted. We locked the lock ring. And the 2.2 cc dipper by volume happens to fill the case capacity right up to the base of the bullet when we crimp it in the second crimping groove. So what that means is we can go ahead and do our neck expanding mouth flaring, but then while the case is in the die, we can take our powder funnel, and the Lee die, powder through die, has a receptacle on top that just fits the Lee powder funnel. So we can go ahead and pour our charge into the case at the same time we're neck expanding mouth flaring. So here's the beauty, and that is you take your powder dipper, go under the surface, and come up so that it's fully engaged into the powder, and then shake off the excess until you have an even scoop, as you see. And then right into the funnel that goes, as you see. Now, as you notice, there's no powder spillage at all, no powder leakage, nothing that's causing a mess. Now you see that powder level in there? We put a very thin wad in there and then used a caliper to measure the distance to the powder and then measure the distance to the second crimping groove, and it's perfect. This bullet just touches the powder, so that's what we want. And in fact, that's very important. Now, of course, we inspect visually to see that there's powder in every one of those. Now, when we shoot these, the powder residue is hygroscopic, which means it'll gather moisture. So that means we need to clean our gun and our brass as soon as possible afterwards to prevent corrosion. Incidentally, for those who like to know what the weight of the powder charge is 28.9 grains. But again, the black powder and black powder substitutes is charged by volume, not by weight. Now, of course, getting the seating depth just involves a little bit of trial and error. We go ahead and see how much seating we're getting, and we want to get it to the second crimping groove. So you see, that's not enough. We'll go ahead and crank this stem until we have it right at the top of the second crimping groove. And once we have that, we go ahead and seat all the bullets in our cases, as you see. Now, if you want to save yourself some hand movements, get yourself a handful of bullets and just go ahead and place a bullet on top of the cases by using your fingers like a bullet guide. And we go ahead and get them in there fairly straight, and that will save you a lot of hand movements in seating the bullets, as you see. Now we're ready to go ahead and seat all of these. And this will go fairly quickly using the John Laychuk finger trick. That takes your hand movements in half. We'll just go ahead and do them all. Now, of course, we've already worked up a great load with the jacketed bullet. We're using the Speer 240 grain Deep Curl bullet, and we're getting 2150 feet per second with that 240 grain bullet. So that's great for our hunting needs. But a black powder load is very good for black powder season, and since we're and this will extend the versatility of our 445 Super Magnum rig. Finally, the Lee factory crimp die for the 44 caliber, and we already got it adjusted, so we go ahead and put it in and crimp. And if we don't like the amount of crimp, we can adjust. Okay, show you 4 of those rounds, not selected by any means, just taken right off the loading block, and you see the crimp in that second crimping groove. And we're ready to go and test these at the range. And the whole idea is this is a great hunting bullet because of that flat nose and the heavy weight. Shooters and reloaders, take care. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.